Unfortunately for myself, unfortunately for John R. Melendez, Donald Trump is now the president-elect, and congratulations to the Republican Party. They whipped my Democratic Party's ass last night. It was a total landslide. It was over before it began. But we learned one major thing. If you want to profit from an election, do the exact opposite of whatever Brian Karem says. And we have proof of that. And last night, Casey Armstrong, my once enemy, my biggest enemy, was feeding me all the betting data, and he had placed major wagers. I'm talking major money that I didn't think Casey ever had, against everything Brian Karem was saying. And we went through it, and throughout the night, he kept increasing his wagers, and he was basically wagering on Donald J. Trump to win the general election. But we were also going through the states that Brian Karem had recommended potentially the Democrats were going to win. And Casey was making money throughout the night. We have proof of that. Casey Armstrong really called it last night, and he called just do whatever, the opposite of whatever John Edward Melendez and Brian Karem and Blinky, that guy, Cadet Ojeda, said. And it was beautiful. So while I was just totally upset as to what was going on, and we're going to see why did we lose the election? I'm not blaming anybody, but people in my party got to realize, when you lose an event, when you lose a football game, when you lose a wrestling match, when you lose a fight, you have to go and analyze what you did wrong. Were we blinded? Were we dissuaded by the media? But we made a critical error in believing that we even had a chance. And we didn't, John. We just didn't. So here we have John R. Melendez and Brian Karem. Obviously, Brian has really, I don't know who he is, but he doesn't know anything about politics, and we're going to see that here. I mean, he literally knows nothing. But they said I dance like a gay guy. Brian dances like a man. He looks cool up there. He knows these songs, these cool, tough songs. That's not me, unfortunately.
Obama Biden t-shirt, Brian, you would be very proud in what people consider a red state. And you know what? That's
John R. Melendez is talking about Florida here when he wore a Biden-Obama shirt to a Florida bar.
That's why I'm telling you, Brian, everybody thinks Florida is red. It is not. It is purple.
I honestly don't see how, Florida could be a toss-up state. It certainly appears to be a toss-up state.
And Brian, I don't know who you are, but you don't know anything about politics. You thought Florida was a toss-up state? And maybe Brian's a comedian or he just does karaoke, but is he joking here? We all knew Florida was a red state. It is hot red. We all knew that going in.
State right now.
In Florida, once an electoral battleground that has moved right in recent circles, CBS News projects Trump will win the Sunshine.
Look at that. That is a red, hot red state. He won by over 1 million votes in there. Brian, I don't know who you are, but you got to look back and analyze why your data was so wrong. I mean, assuming you want to work in politics, I don't know what you do.
Everybody thinks Florida is red. It is not.
You guys you got to reanalyze what you're doing, John R. Melendez. I love you. You know that. I consider you a friend and an enemy, but I consider you more of a friend. Look at this major red state. 6 million votes for Donald Trump and only 4.6 million for Kamala. It doesn't get more red than that. It is as red as can be. This was the easiest wager that Casey Armstrong placed. He said, yeah, we all know Florida is red. It's not purple. It's not even close to being purple. It is red. And more people are moving from the Democratic states of California and New York down to Florida. They like to surround themselves in the Republican-led environment, just like John R. Melendez's mom did. And it's all red. This was an easy wager for us. But whoever that guy Brian is, to claim somehow that Florida was a battleground state or a swing state, he was totally misspoken.
It is purple.
My God, it is anything but purple. Now, we all know we love Lee County. That's where John R. Melendez's mom has her summer home. And look what Lee County did. 64% for Donald J. Trump. And John R. Melendez was among the 139,000 that voted for Kamala. But it is such a red state. Every single person in Lee County, whether you're living on a shit trench or not, could have voted for Kamala, and it would have made no difference at all. That's every person you see, John, at those crackerball courts, the pickleball courts. Every person could have voted for Kamala, and it wouldn't have made a lick of a difference. That's how wrong this guy Karem is. And again, I think Karem may be a comedian, or maybe he was like putting it on. Sometimes he's something like a deadpan, but he knows little about politics. And you can see here what happened in good old Lee County. And look at how red Florida is. It is just bright red. Now, John makes fun of me, but look, at least Orlando's got a few, because that's where a lot of us people of color live in Orlando. And there's some near West Palm Beach, I guess. But for the most part, Florida is completely red. It is not anywhere close to being purple at all. Unbelievable how anyone would think it was anything but a red state. And it is hot red state. Completely hot red. And
everybody thinks Florida is red. It is not.
And as you move, and we all know now what those Jewish developers did to this little peninsula here. They ravaged that land. They dug those shit trenches as a marketing ploy to dupe people from upstate New York and the Midwest to believing they're living on waterfront, destroyed the land. But look at John Errol Melendez. He's not only surrounded by light red, he's surrounded by dark red. It is red everywhere John went. John went right into the heart of a Republican area. And this is the problem with my Democratic Party. We have a lot of rich white people that vote, but we live in Republican areas. We don't understand what the general person likes. That's why we're losing these elections.
You know, Florida could be a toss-up state. It certainly appears to be.
I mean, Brian is hilarious. I think he's a stand-up comedian. What else could it be? If you believe that Florida was a toss-up state, you know nothing about politics. Literally nothing. And again, I apologize to this guy, Brian. He always seemed like a nice guy. I like him on the show. I love when he looked like he did the cocaine and then lied about it. That was cool. But man, you know nothing about politics if you thought Florida was a toss-up state.
A toss-up state right now.
CBS News projects Trump will win the Sunshine State.
They called it within 2 minutes. One time I represented a candidate for the Rent is Too Damn High party, and we were running for governor. I can't remember the year. Either way, it was a great time. They called the race literally after 20 seconds the polls closed. Same thing happened in Florida. It was not even a contest in Florida. No contest at all. So don't ever, ever listen to people that ever said Florida was a toss-up state. This guy, Brian, I don't hold John Errol Melendez accountable for political talk. He doesn't know. John's an entertainer. But if you claim to be in the political field and an analyst and you thought that Florida was a toss-up state, then you can never listen to them, ever.
Democrats aren't like these Trumpaloons that think that they have to go out and buy all this Trump attire and all that bullshit. And because they don't see everybody wearing friggin' Kamala shirts, they actually think that we got this in the bag. And once again, I believe I saw this morning where now Harris is up by 3 points. As of right now, Colin Allred is actually up on Ted Cruz.
This is a guy we know, Cadet Ojeda. I think he was in politics. That doesn't mean he knows about politics. And we know he fell for the oldest trick in the book. At one of his events, this guy, Arnold Porter or some guy, goes, "Hey, can you put a bumper sticker down on my bumper?" And the dope leaned down, and the guy clocked him right in the head, knocked him out. And then Army Major was claiming that he had some weapons. He never had any weapons. I looked into it completely. Unfortunately, the guy that knocked him out is now deceased. But either way, thank you for Super Chat. Is Karem stupid or a liar? It's a great question. I don't know who Brian is. I don't know if he's involved in politics on a day-to-day basis, but clearly he needs to find a different profession. Or he can come to me and I can help him analyze data. And you have to be able to analyze just basic data. But more importantly, I see a lot with these white people that live in Republican areas. Everything about their life is Republican. They have gasoline cars. They buy a boat. Is there anything more frivolous and detrimental to the environment than a boat for which you don't use other than to drink on? Think about that. You're telling the world, I am so selfish. I don't give a about the water here. I don't care about global warming. I'm going to put more gasoline and more emissions into the environment just for my own goddamn pleasure, just because I can. Can you imagine that? That is despicable.
And wouldn't it be nice?
Oh, God, that's nice.
Wouldn't it be nice to see Ted Cruz friggin' get kicked?
So now they're talking about Ted Cruz, who's a senator down in Texas, losing the election. These two dopes here, I'm not calling John Arrow a dope, but these two dopes thought Ted Cruz is going to lose. And now I don't know what happened.
To the curb, and the crime that would come after that. But let me tell you something, folks. That's the kind of stuff that we need to be focused on.
Democrats were really crossing their fingers on Texas. At the end of this race, they actually poured a couple $1 million into that because Democrat Colin Allred seemed to be doing really well in the polling. He was closing that gap.
Colin Allred is actually up on Ted Cruz.
Senator Ted Cruz did.
Oh, man. And this is the issue. When you're dealing with people in politics, a lot of them have this bias, and you got to be very careful because you start to believe. And even when Casey's telling me, dude, do everything the opposite of what this guy Karem is saying. I said, but I thought Karem was a reporter. No, he's like, no. Whatever he said, all the betting lines are going against. So all night, Casey won and myself on this race too. But I looked back and I said, they called the Texas senatorial race, and it was true. They actually thought Ted Cruz was going to lose, and they said it. And again, John, I apologize. I don't know who these guys are. I'm not holding you, John Edward, accountable for this misinformation.
Win this one, especially given how well Trump performed in the state. And what this really means for Senate Democrats is that any opportunity for them to pick up a seat, that door just firmly shut.
Hey, what poll are you referring to, Richard, where she's up by 3?
Let me see.
Telephone poll outside, Brian. I mean, where are they getting their data?
With Donald Trump, I think Michigan is in the bag for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump doesn't even realize he's in.
They haven't called Michigan yet, but Michigan, which Trump probably should have lost, actually looks like it's going to go for Trump. It doesn't matter at this point, but it is hilarious how wrong these guys are. And again, I don't know if Cadet Ojeda is actually into politics. I know he comes on John's show, but I don't ever criticize him for not knowing anything about politics. I had a package pulled. They pulled this for me. They made this for me to make sure that we know how little these dopes knew about politics. So going in the future, we don't listen to them. Or more importantly, do what Casey did. Go against everything these two dopes said. Not you, John Edward Melendez. These two dopes.
When he's throwing stones at Detroit. No, by the way, Detroit has a history of being hard-working, good, down-to-earth people. And he literally went there and shit.
Negro, please. Did you see the ghouls at that nerd con that Tukey and Carl did? Hard-working people. They were ghouls. I've never seen bigger ghouls. And no offense if you were there. But my God. We in the Dabbleverse need to look better. We got to lose a lot of weight. We got to get in shape, not oval, and start looking better. It was just a ghoul fest.
All over them in their own damn city. So,
Well, I'll tell you what's going to be an eye-opener in the next 2 weeks. If Arizona goes for Trump, which some are saying that it will, she just was there, and we'll see how the bounce is from that. If she goes back there, that's still in contention. Donald Trump, the same with Michigan. He was in Detroit. If he doesn't go back, he's given up on Detroit. Pennsylvania seems to be a toss-up.
Donald Trump, the projected winner, according to NBC News, for Pennsylvania.
But North Carolina.
I was so amazed at how little this guy Karem knew. And again, Casey's texting me throughout the night, phone not stopping, saying, dude, Karem said that the Democratic Party is going to win Pennsylvania. Go against it. I said, okay, I'll do it. I'm going to follow you blindly, man.
Carolina and Florida are also toss-ups, but North Carolina.
CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the state of North Carolina. This is
Literally, Karem knows absolutely nothing. In fact, he knows so little about politics, you can make money doing the exact opposite of whatever he said. That's how little this guy knows. It's amazing. And now we got to keep him around. And Brian, I don't have any dislike against you. You made us so much money last night, you would not believe. KC bet before $10,000 on Trump at minus 40, and the odds kept going up, meaning he would have to bet more to win the same amount. But either way, I believed in KC. When he put that real money down, I said, all right, I'm going against Karem too. I don't know who he is. The problem with this and Casey, I know he doesn't like John, and I like both of those guys. So I didn't know if the bias that Casey had against John was somehow going to influence his decision here, but he was 100% right. This guy, Brian, got everything wrong. I mean, everything wrong. The guy knows nothing about politics.
This is the first of 7 battleground states that we're keeping an eye on, and we are calling it for Donald Trump.
With the most death taxes, Florida will be red. Stop it. Then why did they vote for Obama twice, dummy?
CBS News projects Trump will win the Sunshine State.
And again, it's not John Edwards' job to be a political analyst. These guys, I think, are claiming that they're into politics. It's not John's fault. John is correct. Florida did vote for Obama, but if you had any political sense or just understood basic math and statistics, you realize all these white people have moved down there, and the Latinos love Trump. The people coming from Cuba love Trump. The reason they love Trump is they're anti-fascist, anti-dictator. They've actually lived through it. These rich white people that live in all white buildings, all white neighborhoods, they never had a dictator. So it's easy for them to say, oh, I'm a liberal, I'm a Democrat. No, you're not. You're living in the middle of a Republican area, taking advantage of all the Republican offerings. No black people in sight. The only ones you got are these Cubans, and they love Trump more than you do.
Then why did they vote for Obama twice, dummy?
I understand that there is a pretty good, sizable amount of people that used to live in Florida that are now moving out of Florida.
More importantly than that is that even DeSantis and others have said that there's a problem in Florida. It's closer than that idiot Trump would like it. Donald.
Holy shit, man. That guy, Brian, knows nothing. Now, Cadet Ojeda is just a grunt in the military, right? I don't expect him to be an intellectual. I don't even expect him to be able to read data. I think he has a bias, I think. But I mean, both of these guys, one is more off than the other in terms of having any political knowledge. And I could not believe it. I didn't believe it.
Trump won the state of Florida early in the evening, giving him 30 electoral votes.
Even DeSantis and others have said that there's a problem in Florida. It's
the fact that this guy thought that there was a problem in Florida. Florida was the easiest state to call. The easiest. They didn't even have to call it. They stopped counting after a few thousand votes in terms of making the determination. That's how red Florida is. It is hot red. Hot red.